Hello and welcome to Leaders Up Close and Personal. My name is Tim Kotnour and I'm Director of the Engineering Leadership and Innovation Institute at UCF. This program is sponsored by Duke Energy and we appreciate their sponsorship of this. With us today is Jeannie Parsch from Siemens. And Jeannie's going to share some stories with us today about her leadership style and thoughts about leadership. So Jeannie, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So Jeannie, I've heard you talk about leadership and growing. And one of the key elements in your philosophy has been the idea of having a legacy. Mm-hmm. Why is legacy or thinking about your legacy important?
Yes. I think, when we hear the word legacy, I think it's almost synonymous with branding of yourself, but legacy is kind of a big picture. And I think it's important to figure out what you might want your legacy to be, because I think it gives you a goal in life, and it starts you on a path of what would I like to be involved with, what kind of people do I want to surround myself with, what type of leadership opportunities might I want to be engaged with, so that at the end of the day, looking back, we know kind of what we want our legacy to be, what we want people to remember us by.
Right, so if I'm a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior in college, if I'm a mid-career person, someone getting ready to end their career, is that just as important to think about it?
Absolutely. Looking back, I don't think that I defined what my legacy was. And I think I often talk about, a quote from Steve Jobs where I say, I could never connect the dots looking forward. It was only standing where I am looking backwards. And that was what he said, really, that I could connect the dots. So when I was younger, I probably didn't say, this is what my legacy is going to be, where I stand now. And my legacy is still evolving. Mm-hmm. But I think I couldn't do that really until now I look back and I see sort of some themes throughout my life that have led me here. So absolutely, I think as a freshman, as a new employee, as a young employee, and even through adulthood, I think it's important to continue to evolve what your legacy is and understand how important that is.
Good. So you're now at this point in your career and you're now looking back, you can connect some dots. Mm-hmm. If you had to define your legacy today, how would you define it?
It's an interesting question because I do think that it keeps evolving, and where I am now, I'm pretty confident on what I would hope people would say about me, and that is that reflecting back on my life, I wish that I would have had impact to people's life and that I had offered a positive perspective on how then to navigate through life. So if it's only one person where I've helped develop or encourage or strengthen or motivate, that's fantastic. If it's 100 people, even better. If it's more than that, even better than just one. But I would hope that looking back and reflecting on my life, I would say that, and I would hope that other people around me would say the same thing about how I've lived my life.
And so you've lived your life and you've built mentoring programs, talent development programs, and so I'm assuming you've had an impact on those lives? Do you see some of those folks come back?
I do. And yes, I have had a number of wonderful opportunities to work with mentors, mentees. I was given the opportunity to lead our sales and marketing development program at Siemens Energy and a number of leadership positions within diversity. And so through all of that, we've seen some of these people. Let me give an example of the sales and marketing development program. We have about 33 participants who graduated from the program and they're out in either sales or marketing. And I do see them come back. Not only just to me, but just in the organization. Right. I see 13 of them in our sales organization, and they're top-notch, I say kids, but they're not kids, top-notch people and professionals who are really, in my opinion, I see infiltrating our system at Siemens and really just doing a good job. And so it's a great sense of pride for me that I may have had something to do with that, but largely it's them.
Sure, but you've given the opportunity, maybe some process tools, way to think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and again, specific to the development program, it's a 14-month development program where we bring them in and they interact with a number of people within the business, and we put them through different trainings and developments and ultimately to prepare them. And we think that they get about 3 years of experience in this program to prepare them for future jobs with Siemens. And so then there's a number of opportunities in the realm of diversity and inclusion as well that we see by participating in either an employee resource group or a diversity council, that it's just a good leadership opportunity for these folks.
So as you were putting these programs together, I imagine it wasn't just you. There was partners, collaborators, team members. How did you get them to come with you and go create this opportunity that's going to help a whole bunch of people?
Right.
How did you engage them?
So I think that is very, very important, and that's collaboration. So, I say all the time, you don't go up or down without taking someone with you. You always want buy-in, but you always want to recognize people that are on your team, and you don't do it alone. It's something that I learned at an early age where I probably did more on my own, and it's more beneficial and kind of in a personal and professional manner to involve and to collaborate.
Well, so as you were building these teams,
right?
You got to go back. You got to borrow folks that come participate with you.
Yeah.
And they got a day job, and they're involved in all that, but somehow you convince them to come help me.
Sure.
Come help create this legacy, not for me, but for us, and maybe for the people we're sending through.
Right.
And so that's probably a leadership challenge, maybe.
It is. Yeah, it is. And I think the way you get people to do that, I mean, I think, it's not really me getting them to follow me, but it really is about them. Is this important for them to be involved with? So it's actually a lot simpler than me saying, hey, will you come along with this? It really is this something that you want to be involved with? And at the end of the day, you may not know starting out in this initiative how beneficial it is, but standing outside of this, once you've accomplished it and looking back. So I think it really is on the person more than it is me from a leadership standpoint.
But it sounds like you've given them a choice to come on a journey with me, and it'll be a good journey.
Absolutely.
The other thing I've heard you talk about and maybe seen in action is you have a perspective to leading, and maybe it's more to life.
Sure.
And I know there's two principles you kind of carry, or two thoughts to that perspective. Would you mind sharing those?
Not at all. And I'll use my parents as an example, because I think this is probably what you're referring to. Is my mom held high standards and was someone who always said create more options. She had high expectations, as do I, whereas my father was the non-judgmental, we can figure it out. And I think you say this too, we can figure out. So you kind of mold those two together, and you have a really positive sense of perspective on life. One that you want to hold someone in high expectations and in high regard, but it's okay, and you'll figure it out. So I really try to operate that way, understanding that we're all going to fall, we're all going to make mistakes. I have, but it's really how you get up and then play the game and how you do that. So I think I can offer that perspective to people, and that might be another reason why I think the sincerity, the authenticity when you're dealing with people, I think people feel more comfortable with you, and then say, yes, I'm on the bandwagon, I'm going to go along with you.
So what about Jeannie? Right, comes from that core that makes you authentic. I've seen you in the room, I've seen you talk to folks, and there's just a presence.
Well, thank you.
And it is that perspective, but there's something that you hold at that core, and maybe it's just that perspective.
I do. I think it is. It's my perspective. I think it's my faith. I think it's my perspective. It's genuinely the way I feel about people. I was raised to be compassionate. Again, not always perfect and with mistake, but to try your best to be compassionate and empathetic and understanding people. And again, I think at the end of the day, so that people are not feeling, not feeling unloved or unappreciated, that people are feeling inclusive. They're feeling rewarded and valuable. So I mean, that's just important to me. And so maybe it is. We talk about authenticity. It's just something that I really strive to achieve.
Right. So you've got a great legacy of diversity, bringing people together, and maybe it's a legacy of perspective, helping folks feel loved and part of. It's a pretty good legacy.
Well, thank you.
So Jeannie, thank you for sharing a few minutes with us today. Thank you for sharing your time with us. And this has been Leaders Up Close and Personal.